Okay, so let's walk through what Last Regiment is. It's that game right there above me. So you're looking at the main screen right now. You can see in the main screen that we have a number of options available to the player. Not all of them are working right now, but they all will work in the future, hopefully. On the top, you can see that we will have a campaign mode, we have a skirmish mode, a multiplayer mode, we have a community page, which will have some different stuff in it, an encyclopedia that's got a bunch of lore in it, and this is important, an editor. So let's walk through each one of these modes real quick. The campaign mode is the main mode that you will play the game in single player. This is how you unlock everything. This is how you find the story out. This is how you walk through our world and learn about our lore and all of that exciting stuff. It will be a set of missions later on. When you click on this button, you play, and when you go play, it'll bring you to, we don't have these screens right now, but later it will bring you to a big map of our world, and there'll be sort of a, you'll follow along the map and follow through the story of this character. And by the way, this beautiful young lady here on the front of our screen, that's Olivia, who is the main character of our campaign mode. Now, I don't want to tell you too much about the lore and everything. I don't want any spoilers, but Olivia is actually sort of a disgraced ex-military person. She had served in the colonial military. And for reasons I'm not going to go into right now because I don't want to spoil the story for you, she was removed from the colonial military and has spent the last few years sort of on the high seas as a pirate. And she's kind of got a little pirate band that she's been raiding the islands of Ruma, the Ruman Islands, which is off the coast of the continent of Callasia, which is where most of our game takes place. She's been involved in these things for years, but some things happen, and because these things happen, she gives up her pirating life and develops a little herd of people, a little pack, a regiment, so to speak, and takes her regiment to the ancient lands of Callasia to go do some stuff that I'm not going to tell you about because I don't want to spoil the game. Now, you're asking, what is this Callasia you speak of? So, a little bit of backstory about the campaign and the game. Our world is set in a fictitious fantasy land loosely based on 1750s Europe and the colonization period. And the world is composed of sort of two main parts, and there's the western part and the eastern part. And the western part is the sort of old world, so to speak, and it's split between the Empire of Portella in the south and the northern kingdoms in the north. And in a very, very distant past, this old world had sent ships across the ocean, ships of discovery, and they had found this vast sort of underpopulated land of Callasia. And the vast underpopulated land of Callasia was full of goblins and orcs and sort of elvish type creatures called the Highborn. And at first things went well. They traded, life was good, they built colonies, they worked together. But over time, these colonies, as all colonies do, fell into wars and blah, blah, blah. There's a very long history behind this, but the short version is big, huge, ugly war overtakes Callasia. And the local residents of Callasia, the elven type Highborns, summon they fracture into two different groups. And one of the groups is a very technologically advanced group of Highborn. They're very interested in machines, and in particular, they're interested in building machines which can be imbued with the spirit of life through attaching crystals and gems to them. And these things, which are called constructs, become the main weapon of the Highborn in fighting the other people of Callasia. And these constructs become extremely powerful, so powerful that the orcish people who have traditionally been the enemies of the Highborn feared that they would actually be destroyed completely. And a group of them went and cast a great enchantment to summon the death god Zali. And the death god Zali was asked, how can we fight these Highborn? What can we do against this? And the god says, well, I'll give you this incredible power, and this incredible power is the power to use a sort of weird fungal type infection that creates fungus covered necromantic creatures called the infected. And the infected themselves become an enormous problem. They're not really interested in listening. They're not, they're infected, fungus-covered, dead things. They're not real controllable by most people, and they rage across the world. And the other faction of Highborn, the non-technology using faction of the Highborn, decide that they need to fight this, and they fight this by summoning spirits of the woods, things called wood spawn, and these wood spawn are deep spirits of the forest. So anyway, you've got these three sort of huge summoned powers: the constructs and the infected and the wood spawn, and basically they destroy Cathia. Cathia becomes unlivable, and the humans of the old world, the Portellans and the Northern Kingdom people, were like, yeah, we're out. This is we want no part of this anymore. They go back to their old world, and everything sort of shuts down, and we enter a dark age for about 100 years. And during this dark age, the continent of Cathia is just ravaged by these various factions. And what ends up happening is little groups of people cluster in little tiny places like Red Keep and Dark Talon Wood, where they gather together, not necessarily in racially homogenous bands. In many cases, it's groups of elves and goblins that work together, or groups of orcs and goblins that work together. And they sort of defend themselves against this horrible thing that's going on. And it reaches a state of sort of stasis. While this is happening over in the old world, the people over there again decide to expand and go back to Cathia, and what's called the reconquest of Cathia begins. And during this recolonization period, this reconquest of Cathia, it's during that time period that our game takes place. And so it takes place mostly in the lands of Cathia, with this mix of Western elements, these and again, we're talking about sort of almost Enlightenment age military forces, so musketeers and dragoons, artillery, gunpowder, that sort of thing, mixed in with all of this magical stuff that's happening in Cathia. And the reason behind this is I really wanted to explore the idea of colonization and the sort of history of our own colonial past in a fantasy landscape. So that's the story that the campaign is set in, and that's campaign mode. And in campaign mode, you will play through a number of missions, playing as Olivia and a number of other heroes as they find new factions and learn new things in the land of Cathia. That's campaign mode. Skirmish mode is unlocked through campaign mode. As you finish levels in single player, that will unlock those levels in single player, as well as other levels, which will allow you to play them as sort of single player skirmishes, so that you can set up these skirmishes and you can adjust which forces you want to fight, etc. Essentially, it's multiplayer games without multiplayers. It's single player multiplayer games. We also, of course, have real multiplayer, and the real multiplayer is a number of maps, some of them from the single player missions, some of them not from the single player missions, some of them specific multiplayer maps. And these we're working right now on what the goals for multiplayer are and what sort of multiplayer games you can have, but there will be a number of options that you can set. Right now, the game is playable up to 8 players multiplayer, and we'll get into it in a minute, but it's simultaneous multiplayer, so it actually goes quite quick. Our testing right now has been primarily multiplayer, as we have been developing the sort of tools and the technology and the basic game design and the basic game flow. All of that has largely been multiplayer so far, and our experience shows us that a short, like 2-player multiplayer game on a small map takes about half an hour to 45 minutes. A long, big 6 to 8 player game in a larger map takes us something like 2-3 hours at the longest. So they're big games, but they're not long in the sense of Crusader Kings or Civilization long. They're long in the sense of, say, a StarCraft or Command and Conquer or Rise of Nations might be long. They're in that sort of time period. And we think that's a very fun place for a multiplayer game, that you can actually begin and end a whole game in sort of one game setting. That was a key goal for us when we made the game. Skipping over to the editor, there is actually a full editor in the game. We will be supporting, when we launch, a whole suite of tools for people to build their own levels, upload their own levels, share their levels, comment on levels, vote on levels, play those levels in multiplayer. All of that will be available in the full game. And I could show you the editor. It actually works and everything. It's what we're building the levels in right now, but I don't want to concentrate on that for the purposes of this walkthrough. I want to get into the game and show you how the game is played. Now, the first thing that you do when you, and today I'm going to be showing you a multiplayer game. We don't have a lot of single player games built yet. Yeah, we have the campaigns built right now, so I'm going to be playing a multiplayer game. I want to show you how you build a regiment. And this is the first thing you do when you play multiplayer games, is you have to decide who you're going to bring, right? And so if I go and check out, I can actually save different regiments. You have a number of different regiments that you can save. In this case, I have 2 saved. I could make more. This is, by the way, is a placeholder screen. We'll have the ability for you to have a lot more regiments than this later. But for the moment, let's go in and build a regiment. And this is, a lot of the art in the game is placeholder. This is very placeholder art. It's just purely functional. But as you can see, I have up along the top each one of these different factions. Right now, the factions are represented by the heroes. Later on, we'll probably have better art that shows you the faction or whatnot. But for right now, we have the heroes up along the top. And so each faction has a hero and a number of units. So let's take a look, for instance. I'll pull him out. Let's take a look at the Pallava faction. And the Pallava, sorry, this is Red Keep. This is the Red Keep faction. Red Keep faction is led by Captain Tristan here. He's a fine cavalry officer. And Red Keep, for instance, each one of these factions, of course, has a whole history. It's part of the lore and part of the game. Red Keep is actually one of the earlier colonial settlements in Callasia, and it was a joint settlement between the Highborn and the humans. And it's had a very storied history. It's passed through a number of different rulers and whatnot. At the time of our game, it is Portellan, and Portellan is the southern group, this southern empire of the Western Kingdoms. It is owned by the Portellans and is sort of a joint settlement between the Portellans and the Highborn of Callasia. So, as you can see, I've got Captain Tristan here, and I can add Captain Tristan to my regiment. Now, you'll see my regiment has space for 2 heroes, right? And these heroes each come from a different faction, and space for a number of units. I cannot bring a unit unless I bring the hero of his faction. So as you can see, when I brought Captain Tristan over there, I can't select Tristan anymore because I've already selected him. But if I go to any of these other factions, you can see they're all grayed out because I can't bring any units from those factions because I didn't bring that hero. If I were, for instance, to remove Tristan and decide to bring Princess Silvera, who's from the Silverwood faction, all of the Silverwood units would immediately become available, right? But we're not going to bring her. I want to bring Tristan because he's cool. Now, once I decide which hero I want to bring, that opens up all of his units to me. Right now, because I'm also bringing Carl and his guys, I've already filled up 7 of my unit slots with Carl's units. Now I'm going to decide which one of Tristan's units I want to bring. I'm going to bring the Chainsaw Shock Troops because they're cool. The Griffin Dragoons because that is, those are super awesome. That is my full regiment right now. 2 heroes, 9 units. So I've got that available to me now. I can save that out and exit. So what we're going to do now, we're going to play multiplayer. The multiplayer is a real multiplayer game. These are real people. This is all working off a real live honest to God server, the same server that we're going to use when we launch the game and all that. So this is all legit. We've actually got people playing from the Philippines, from Indonesia. I'm playing in Japan. The first thing that you would do is you would choose your regiment. In this case, I'm going to choose the Orange Guards, which is the regiment that I just made a moment ago, right? And when I click play, it's going to take me to the online world. Hang on a sec while it figures out what the online world is. Then I have a bunch of people online. I decide I want to host a game. Obviously, in the full game, this will be where we have choice for lots and lots of maps. There'll be player-made maps and maps that we have. One of the things we're intending on doing when we do the full editor upload system and all that is we'll probably have our maps, which are the ones that Boomzap actually made and shipped with the game. And if you'd like to play a Boomzap official map, then those will be available. There'll also be a tab for Boomzap approved maps, which means we've actually gone through them and looked at them. And those, what we'll probably do is have a voting system. And so everybody can upvote maps that are really good. And if a map gets really upvoted and we really like it, then we'll take a look at it and approve it and make sure there's nothing objectionable in it and put that in sort of the Boomzap approved maps list. And then there'll be a third place, which is the place where you're there on your own recognizance. And that's where, because we really, if we open up the editor to anybody, we don't really know what they're going to make. And it's obvious when you do that, you get a lot of trash maps or people who didn't really learn the editor and just like, here's something, I'll upload it. And so that'll be where we filter all that stuff out. And if you want to go there and see what's in there, you can vote and stuff will rise to the top and we can figure out from there. But hopefully there'll be two sections of these are maps that Boomzap made and we know they're good because we made them. And here's some maps that our community made that we've looked at, that the community's looked at, that people have voted on, that we think are great. And we're hoping that we can build a whole community of people that are trying to get in that list. That's sort of going to be something we hope people are excited to be, oh, my map got approved. As we'll see. Anyway, for the moment, I'm going to choose Coruscant, which is one of our testing maps. This map is actually, the theory behind this map is that this is one of the ancient cities of the land of Callasia that has been destroyed by the infection, the big fungal thing that's taken over the world. And so the city itself is completely destroyed and covered with fungus, and it's a washed out ruin, and it's surrounded by smaller kind of fishing villages and sub areas, and we're all going to fight in there. Some of this map is a little, we haven't really done a bunch of specific objects, and later on when we start building very specific maps, we'll actually make some objects that are maybe a little bit more themed to, oh, we need this because of this map, etc. So this is all a little bit placeholder, but it's pretty close to what we expect the game to look like. Let's hop in. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players playing with us. I am going to change the hard points to short so that the game is a little shorter. I'm going to choose the time limit to short so the game is a little shorter. And so these are the two options that we have right now. We'll have a bunch more options in the final game, but what I'm playing with right now is how do you win the game? And there's 3 ways to win a multiplayer game. 1, kill everything, kill everybody. That's the obvious way to win a multiplayer game. 2, have the most number of victory points when the time is over. And I've set the time to short. I don't know, that's what, 40 turns? So you got 40 turns to win this. We'll probably actually change this so it's, in fact, I think it already right now adjusts based on the map size. If it doesn't, it will later. And then 3, you can have a certain threshold of victory points where we say, look, when you get this many victory points, it doesn't matter how many turns are left in the game. If you can hold this for X number of turns, you've won the game. And I've set that limit to the lowest limit because testing last night showed us on this map right now, it's actually quite high and the games take forever. So that's what we've got. I'm going to ready up. So here's the game. It's loading up right now. It'll take a couple seconds. You can see that we have a fog of war. Most of this map is under the fog of war. The fog of war is not complete, so I can see the map. And the theory is you have old maps. You know what the world is supposed to look like, but you don't know who's there right now or what they've been doing lately, right? So I'm up here in this little corner of the map. I seem to be red. The other players have already pushed end turn. The key to the game is that the movement is simultaneous. And when I say simultaneous, you'll see when I dragged that guy over to this other spot, he didn't move yet. What he did is he put some little arrows down that say, this is where he's going to move when it's time to move. And the reason we do it that way is in multiplayer games, I want 2 things. 1, I want the game to go a lot faster. Usually in a multiplayer game, player A takes a turn, player B takes a turn, player C takes a turn, and you got to wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And when you play in like an 8-player game, it takes forever for everyone to take all of their turns. And that's, to be quite honest, kind of boring, right? And so what we said was everyone's going to plan their turn at the same time, which you can see I've just done. And then when the timer runs out, everyone's turn is going to happen at the same time. And so now you can see we go through the resolution. Everybody just saw their units move, and now we're on turn 2. Now, and I'll talk more about the game as we go on. I have to kind of balance between actually playing the game because I'm being timed and explaining all of the game. So we'll explain as we go. If you don't understand everything right away, hang in there. I'm going to get to it all. So I have moved my hero. My hero has a number of abilities, right? Or we call them powers. And so, for instance, he's pretty good when he attacks in the plains because he's a plains warrior. He can help other people attack in the plains, etc., etc. And you can click on each one of these different powers, and that tells you what they can do, right? Powers that are circles are something that you can actually do. The ones that are squares are just telling you this is a modifier to this guy. You can't do anything, but this is a thing about him. So, for instance, I can't do Flatlands native, but he is a Flatlands native, which gives him a bonus when he's attacking in a plains or a tundra, right? One of his abilities is he can build things. And when I click build, it gives me a list of things that he can build. And each one of these things that he can build has a build tree. For instance, I can start with a homestead. If I start with a homestead, that can be upgraded to something else. If I start with a camp, that can be upgraded to something else. So I start with a tower, that can be upgraded to something else. For him, I'm going to start with a homestead because the homestead opens up the branch of sort of economic focused things. Sawmills, blacksmiths, that sort of thing. And those are good to have early in the game for your economy. So I'm going to build this homestead with that guy, right? And you'll notice I've got this portal where he started. The portal is where I'm going to summon things. Now you can see right now I can summon. These guys are grayed out. The reason those guys are grayed out is because I have not summoned the guy who can summon them, right? I have not summoned Tristan yet. Now, if I were to summon Tristan, right, on the next turn, all of Tristan's faction would be available to me right now. Or, if I don't want to do that, I can summon somebody else from Carl's faction, right, which is the Palava faction. So right now, actually, instead of summoning another hero, I'm actually going to summon these, what do we call these guys? This is my support wagons. And the support wagons are also a unit that can build. And because I'm early in the game and I want to be building stuff, they're much cheaper than bringing in another hero, but they provide me with the ability to build stuff. So I'm going to drag the support wagons over here, and you'll notice I'm just about out of time. I'm going to press end turn. When everybody has pressed end turn, the game resolves, right? Now, you notice there was a timer. The timer means when the first person presses end turn, the timer begins. So once somebody is done with their turn, we now have 1 minute to complete our turn, which is enough time to do what you need to do. So right now, you'll notice there's no timer there because everybody is thinking about their moves and doing what they're going to do. Nobody has yet to push the end turn button. When you see that little timer start, that means somebody somewhere in the game has decided they're done with their turn and pushed the end turn button. Obviously, in single player game, that doesn't exist. You have all the time you want to take your turn, but in multiplayer, that's what keeps the game moving along. So now I've got this guy. He has built himself a homestead. I want to upgrade that homestead, and I think what I would like to build is this blacksmith, because the blacksmith gets me the ability to make some weapons. Because you can see, once I built the homestead, I have a new list of powers down here at the bottom. And these are powers that are inherited from the building. So Carl can do these things. And when Carl is on a homestead, he can also do these things, right? But right now, what Carl's going to do is he's going to upgrade that homestead into a blacksmith, right? So I've got these new support wagons. What am I going to do with the support wagons? Well, you know what? Actually, I am not going to have Carl do that. I'm actually going to have Carl. Come here, Carl. Why don't you walk over to that bridge? I'm going to have Carl take that bridge over. How do these support wagons walk over and do the extra building there? I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, I can't summon any more units because there's somebody sitting on top of my portal right now. Obviously, I can build more portals. That's an option. Now, you'll notice with the buildings, there's two kinds of buildings. There's permanent buildings and there's buildings that I can build, right? A permanent building is something that's already there on the map, like this village. I can't actually build villages. This game is too short for that. The lore of the game is that these are battles that take, you know, a couple days, a week at most. These aren't multi-year wars. So the idea that you could build up a whole village in the middle of this doesn't make any sense. So the things that you can build are, you know, much simpler things. I can build a blacksmith. I can build a camp. I can build a watchtower. These are things that kind of make sense that you could build in a smaller amount of time. Larger, more important buildings, villages, cathedrals, forts, those kind of things, those are focal points on the map that exist, and they're placed on the map in the editor by the person who built the map. So now I've got Carl sitting here on this bridge. As you can see, I can look at the bridge. The bridge would give me these abilities if I happened to, or the bridge, actually I can't show you what the bridge does, which is a problem with our game. I need to deal with that. So if I click on Carl, I can actually say I want Carl to take this bridge over. He can claim that bridge. Now he can cross the bridge without claiming it, but if I claim it, that gives me access to some of the extra abilities that the bridge has, like being able to take tolls and that sort of thing. This guy, he's done building, I think. No, he isn't. I'm going to build. He actually has to build this turn, so he's going to build a blacksmith. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I can summon another unit. Some of these units I can't summon because I don't have enough money right now. You can see up here in the corner, I have control money. Control is sort of a population capacity limit, so I can only have 14 population capacity units. You'll see each unit has his own population capacity. So for these Houndmasters, for instance, require 4 population capacity. I'm now using 6 of my 14. So I can get some of these guys if I want. But I don't think I want them right now. What I want instead is some artillery. So I will summon this artillery. And yeah, that's my turn. So as you can see, everything's being resolved at the same time. My turn is over. I've built myself a blacksmith. I've taken over this bridge, and I've summoned some artillery. So my next move, I think it's time for me to start invading this land. Now I can see there's a portal here, so I know there's another player right there. I don't know who that player is, but I'm going to go mess with him. So let's bring Carl over. Now I can see there's a ruin right there. Those ruins are the things that I can improve into new buildings. So I'm going to do that. Now this guy, he can theoretically get some extra resources. He can use this blacksmith to give some equipment to my units, but he can't do that right now because there's a cooldown, and he has to wait for the cooldown to be overcome. So right now, I'm actually going to use him to build some walls there. Actually, no, I'm going to have him get some money. He can actually use his taxation ability to tax the blacksmith, and that will actually increase the amount of money that blacksmith makes me this turn. And then this artillery, I'm going to run him down the road. Now you'll notice, by the way, when I move these units, you can see the game tells me where he can move. When I start moving him, all those little orange hexes, those are the places he could move to, right? And he has a certain number of move points. You can see here on the unit, he has 3 main statistics. The one on the left is his attack ability, the one in the middle is his move, and the one on the right is his hit points, right? So this cannon, for instance, doesn't have a very great attack, but it doesn't need it because that's not what you do with cannons. What you do with cannons is you use the bombard ability or the grape shot ability. They're there for the special powers of bombing people. Carl, on the other hand, he doesn't really have any long-range weapon stuff, but he does have a pretty good attack on him and a pretty good health on him. He's a hero unit, so he's obviously much bigger and stronger. So when I move a unit, he's got 1 point of move that I can expend. Now, each one of the different terrains will eat a certain amount of my move, which I really ought to have written down here in the left. I think we'll change that and make sure that that information is given here when I click on those. I should have that. But when I move down there, it'll tell me when I start trying to move that moving to a road on a plains eats 0.5 of my movement. I have 1, which means I can move 2 spaces on a road. I can't move into this forest because moving into that forest is actually a movement of 2 and I don't have that much left. So that's not an option for me. So that's how movement works. And it's pretty straightforward. Drag the guy where you want him to go, right? Let's see. Is that all I want to do on this turn? Yep, that's all I want to do on this turn. All right, so now you see everyone moving. And I'll get rid of this warning. There's obviously some, it's a game in progress, so there's some bugs. So you might notice some little bug things pop up in the center. You also notice it's a game in progress. We have a really crappy frame rate right now. That's not going to stick around. That'll get better over time. There's a lot of stuff that we don't have optimized in here. So, but honestly, a strategy game playing at 40 frames a second is no problem. But it'll be better, I swear. So I'm going to move that guy over there, where I'm going to probably build something more offensive to support my offense into that guy's territory. This guy here, he's still waiting before he can use his cool special powers. This guy here, he's going to go up to support that guy. And it looks like I could hire some militia if I want, but I'm not. I'm going to get some of these Hound Masters because they have a cool special ability. They can actually summon hounds, which is cool. So one of the things about the simultaneous turns is figuring out what happens before what, right? When you attack, does my missile happen before I get cursed? Does it happen before the guy moves, etc.? So everything is color-coded. So you'll notice this bombard is a kind of artillery. You'll notice that this disband unit is, well, it says action_text, but it should say action. And each one of these things sort of exists in a phase, right? And as you, when the turn resolves, each phase happens one thing at a time. And so when you actually press the end turn button and a turn starts to resolve, right now I'm still waiting for the other players to finish their turn, but when everyone's finished with their turn and it begins to actually resolve the turn, a little thing will pop out here which will show you going through each one of the phases. And very quickly you learn, oh, okay, this phase happens before that phase. So you can very clearly remember, oh, okay, I'm going to shoot stuff. So right now we're in the summoning phase, the preparation, which is where summoning comes in. Then we skip, none of these phases had anything in it, right? They include things like bonuses, curses, buffs, etc. But because I wasn't doing any of that, it skipped right ahead to movement. I did my movement and combat, which happens simultaneous, and then it finishes up with income phase. So that little phase counter up at the top tells you this is the order that we do things in, right? So that's we didn't have that in for a while, and that was the most common question that we got when people play this game was, does this happen before or after that? So now there's a very clear language to the player. What order do these things happen in so they know? All right, so this guy, now he has waited for his cooldown. All of the abilities have a cooldown, by the way. You can see, for instance, my blacksmithing has a cooldown of 3. My weaponsmith has a cooldown of 2. These different abilities can only be used every X number of turns, so they have to wait for cooldown, just like World of Warcraft or a game like that. So now that he can use his cool weaponsmithing ability, if I click on weaponsmithing, you can see it tells me here's the range that you can use that in. I can give weapons to anyone in this range. I think I'm going to give these weapons to these Hound Masters, right? So that's going to happen. And then after that, these Hound Masters are going to rage along the road, and they're going to get up to do some fighting. This guy is going to move up into the bridge, and this guy is going to build some shit. So now the turn is resolving. You'll see all the things are happening. I've built my new thing. I've built a tower. I'm going to upgrade this tower into an artillery tower, which is a pretty good thing to have when you're attacking somebody, especially if you've got an artillery unit that you can move up to go inhabit it. This guy, he's a builder. I should have him go build some stuff somewhere. Let's have him go down the road here and see what's going on down there. These Hound Masters will move there. Now, the reason I'm moving the Hound Masters there is if I were to try to move him this way, you'll see these arrows became orange. And what that tells me is during the simultaneous turn movement, this guy will move here, this guy will move here, and then on the next turn, they'll both try to move here, and that won't work. They can't both move into each other like that, right? So if I want these guys to go around each other, what I need to do is have maybe that guy go into this forest and this guy go that way, and then the next turn he can go down so they can walk around each other. But it gives you that information so that you know, oh, okay, if you were to try to go here, let's see, if I try to move that guy here, it'll tell me, you know that's not going to work, right? Now this will work because on turn 1 he'll move there, and on turn 1 he'll move there. But this is orange because on turn 2 that guy can't move there because this guy will be there. If I tried to move him there, it'll tell me both of those won't work. But if I move him here, it tells me, oh yeah, that's all going to work. They'll move around each other just fine. I would summon another guy right now if I can, but I can't because I'm broke. So instead, I'm going to hit the end turn button. Things are resolving. Now, you can see suddenly some dudes have come into view. I'm getting attacked. Now, if I want to know who that is, or who's purple, I can click here, and that tells me here's all the different players. Here's what their current score is in victory points. Right now, it looks like it's hard to read that blue, isn't it? Looks like everyone's doing about the same. We have a full chat system too. If you want to chat with people, nobody's chatting right now because we're all on stream. All right, so this doesn't look good for me. I'm going to go that way and try to back out of it. This guy is going to bomb. So I've got two options. One, I could do this grape shot, but the problem with the grape shot is that's actually a cone-based damage spell. So it's actually going to do damage in a cone like that. And if I did that, well, I'd be shooting poor Carl right in the face. That's probably not a good plan. So instead, I can use my bombard to bombard somebody, and it tells me where I'm going to bombard. Please don't get upset about the placeholder art for showing you where things are going to be. Now, the problem is that looks like that's going to catch Carl too. Now, I could shoot it over here, but the problem is that's outside of my fog of war. I can't shoot into the darkness like that, so I have to shoot somewhere I can see. If I shoot there, I'm sorry, let me pick up the bomb again. If I shoot there, it looks like I'd blow myself up. That's not a good idea. If I shoot there, that's going to hurt Carl. If I shoot there, that's going to hurt Carl. So it looks like it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I'm going to hit Carl. So screw it. I'm going to bomb that guy right there where I'll do the most damage. And Carl's just going to take it like a man is probably how that's going to play out. But you should probably run, Carl. Get out of there, Carl. That's a bad place for you. Let's move my hound guys up. Let's move you down to check out what's going on down here. Looks like I can summon some militia, which is probably, or some, those are musketmen. That's probably a good idea. And that looks like I'm done. Now, one thing we do have is we have the little turn marker up here. This tells me how many of my units still have not moved. So let's, for instance, say I didn't move him. I say don't do that thing. You'll see that says there's one movement who has not been given an order. Oops, I shouldn't have done that right before the timer ran out. But now you can see there are 5 guys who I have not moved on this turn when my turn actually starts. And as I move each guy, that number will go down, and this will actually scroll through them so I can see who's moving where. So on my turn, if I want to see who's moved, this will actually scroll me through each one of my different units. So this is what's going on. All right, so looks like that bomb killed that flutter shred. It looks like that flutter shred did some damage to all of us. And if for instance I'm talking or I'm looking somewhere else and I don't know what just happened, I can actually look at the log, and the log will tell me what happened. So it looks like Happy Kittens has summoned some musketeers. Musketeers respond. I bombarded the flutter shred with 6 damage, killed him. Bombarded the Spirit of Earth, did 3 damage to him because that was splash damage. Looks like I shot myself for 3 damage because, you know, I knew Carl was going to take it. I knew it was going to happen like that. So let's see. I'm going to use my cool grape shot thing. And now that's actually going to work out well for me. You are going to, you know what? I'm just going to kill Silvio. I'm going to go right in Silvio's face. Now, you may be wondering, you just said that you were going to shoot this guy there. That's you just made a plan to shoot that guy like that, right? Why would you move Carl into danger like that? I'm not actually moving Carl into danger like that because I know that all of this missile fire will take place before movement. So he'll actually do this shot, and then after this shot, he'll move in, and that's when that stuff will happen. So that's cool. So I'm going to move these. Actually, can these Houndmasters summon hounds yet? No, not yet. I got to wait to summon hounds. All right, I'm going to move these Houndmasters up. He's going to do his thing. Carl's going to attack. He's going to go down, and we're going to see about taking over some more stuff down there. You're going to move over here. That's how we're playing it. End turn. All right, boom. I did damage those. Excuse that some of these effects are not, we have no real effects for that. So like all of the cone fire stuff, we don't actually have an effect for that yet. We got to put that in the game. So be gentle on our placeholder effects. So looks like Carl missed Silvio. Silvio moved there. Carl moved there. But you know what? That means this guy has left his base open for Carl to run in and kill, which is what Carl's going to do. Kill, Carl, kill. You back up because you're going to get your ass handed to you if you hang out there. This hound dude is going to have to move up. I want to summon some hounds, but I can't yet. All right, just run up there and smack that guy in the face. So you can see if he does that, the little red arrow tells me if things work out the way I expect them to, I'm going to combat that guy. Now, of course, that might not happen. It might be the case that that guy doesn't, just hang out there and wait for me to hit him. I'm going to go up there, in fact. I'm going to chase down Silvio with my hounds. And let's see, you, what are you doing? You're gonna, how far can I shoot that gun? Not far enough. All right, well then you march up to where you can shoot that gun. What are you up to? There's nobody down there? There's nobody taking all this good stuff over? Well, let's go take some of that stuff over. I'll go build some stuff. All right. Look, I can build Tristan. Now's a good time to build Tristan. So you can see once we get to the point where we have some real combat and some people to fight, it gets pretty... the game itself is very simple. Drag the guy where you want him to go, use the powers, put the power where you want him to go. To control the game is pretty straightforward. But once you start getting into a tactical situation like this, you can see it starts to get complicated, right? Now, what's happened to poor Carl here is he's gone and gotten himself flanked. And this is actually a new thing that we added to the game quite recently. And it's so new that I don't actually have art for it. But what's happened, you'll notice that Carl's attack strength is a red 8 on it. And the reason it's red is it's been lowered. And the reason it's been lowered is Carl has gotten himself surrounded by these 3 units, right? When you have more than 1 unit of an enemy bordering you, you have been flanked, right? And that actually lowers your attack strength. And the reason we did this is we wanted to make sure that if you surrounded somebody, it made you weaker. And so by being surrounded like that, he's actually been weakened. Now you'll notice also that these 2 guys, and again, we don't have art for it, there'll be art for it later, these guys are adjacent. They're supporting each other. So when you have 2 of your own units next to each other, that actually makes them a little bit stronger. So these 2 units are actually stronger right now because they're next to each other. And this unit is weaker because he's gotten surrounded. And so when you get into these sort of complicated situations like that, figuring out how you're going to form your units, how you're going to support your unit becomes a kind of important part of the game. So it becomes quite tactical. Let's see. Let's move this guy up to where he can do something. Can you summon a hound yet? You loser, come on. I want to summon hounds. You cannot summon hounds yet. So you keep chasing Silvio. Carl, get out of there. Run, Carl, you're surrounded. That can't be good for you. Let's get Tristan in on this deal. I want him up where he can do some good. And then I want you to go build me some economic stuff because I want to be stronger. So why don't you, I'm going to build a farm down there is what I'm going to build. I build a homestead first, then I can build up to the farm. All right, I got 1 unit who I haven't moved. Who have I not moved? Oh, you. Can you fire yet? Now you'll notice I can't just keep using my field artillery over and over and over again because like all the other powers, the field artillery powers have a cooldown. So it actually takes 3 turns between my ability to bombard and 3 turns between my ability to shoot grape shot. So right now, ooh, that was not good. I got stones thrown at me. So I'm right now waiting to be able to bombard again. Looks like my bombard just refreshed so I can start bombarding again. Thank God. You'll notice Carl is back to his full attack strength again because he is no longer surrounded. Yay, Carl. let's see. I've gotten myself in a rather complicated tactical situation. What am I going to do? First thing I'm going to do... Now, this is kind of interesting. I could drop my bombs or use my artillery here, but if I did, it's going to catch my militia, or not militia, these are musketeers. They'll catch my musketeers in that fire, which I don't want to do, right? But if I shoot here, I can actually get both this unit and that unit in the area of effect. Bad part is, that's only the splash damage, right? So you can see, I do 2d4 damage on the thing that I'm shooting. I only do 1d4 on the thing that is outside of the thing I'm shooting. So here, I can choose to do, I could actually just bomb right there, but I can't because it's too far away. I don't have the range to do that. But if I bomb this guy here, I'll do 2d4 points of damage to this guy, which will do more damage to him, but I won't do any damage to him. Or I can shoot here, and I can do 1d4 to each one of those guys, and 2d4 to this empty piece of forest right there. I'm gonna choose to do that. That's gonna be my choice. Let's see. I'm gonna run up here and see if I can beat the hell out of whatever he's about to summon, because that's a cruel trick to play. And you are going to shoot that guy with your guns. You know, that's the obvious choice. The less obvious choice is to march you over there where you can shoot somebody else with your guns and run big old Tristan, who's got the big old 10 attack, right up there. Now you'll notice, by the way, when I moved Tristan up, if I just have Tristan hang out where he is, Tristan's got an attack of 10. But Tristan has this really cool ability. He's got charge, right? When I use Tristan and charge him forward, when I'm moving him, it'll actually add a +5 to his attack, right? And what's nice is all of that stuff is automatically shown on your meeple, on your little unit. So I don't have to think too hard about that. I don't have to like do the math in my head. How much is he going to do it? It's all right there. If I stand right here and defend, then that's all that does, right? Actually, that should add a +4 to his attack. It doesn't. Should. A note for Nelson, that should add a +4 to his attack. But if I run that forward, then you'll see, the +5 that he gets for his charge happens, and he's going to do that extra damage. So I can't summon anyone else. Why can't I summon? Because I am pop capped. I'm using 18 in my 17, so I'm not allowed to summon anyone else right now. So what I need to do is get this guy down here in the corner to build me something that's going to get me some increased pop cap. Looks like a I'll build a farm. That'll be a good thing to build. And that'll up my pop cap a little bit, and I can summon some more dudes. All right, so he got healed. That's not good for me. That's not good for him. All right, we've got him down to 1 hit point, which is good. 0 hit points would have been better. All right, so I built a farm down here. That farm, you see, has increased my pop cap a little bit. But I was already over my pop cap, so now I need to do more of that. Probably the best thing to build would be a barracks. I think that's actually going to give me the best boost to my population capacity. These guys took over my whatever I had artillery tower built there. They took over and destroyed my artillery tower. I am not okay with that. That is not cool. And because that's not cool, I'm going to shoot that guy in the face. And I'm going to run this guy in. All right. Carl, kill whatever that... What is that? Oh, the Windlords. Kill those Windlords. Can you summon a... Still can't summon dogs? All right, fine. Silvio's getting healthy. I can't let that happen. I got to go kill him before he gets too healthy. And then you, what can you do? Ooh. Will that? No. See, that's going to catch my... It's going to catch my musketeers, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to shoot myself in the face. That's not cool. So why don't you march through the forest and get yourself in a better position to shoot people. All right, that's my turn. I feel good about it. One thing to look at is the way that our fog of war works. So if you look at the fog of war, it's not just a clear circle around the users or around the units. It's actually based on the terrain. So you can see things like forests actually prevent you from seeing deeper into the forests. So a lot of the fog of war is based around that terrain and figuring out how to deal with the terrain. So one thing I can do, for instance, I managed to sneak this unit, this artillery unit, by dragging him slowly, laboriously through the forest. I actually managed to get him up without anyone really being able to see him very well, which is kind of a neat little trick that you can do with somebody like that. So there's all that.